Okay, guys. So this layout, I'm going to make it available for you guys. So in the coming tutorials, you can follow along and use the same layout. It's just a layout that I created for texturing purpose alone. So I want to have everything in view for me to have this. So I'm going to make it available. So let's start with creating a redshift material. And this redshift material, I'm going to call this plastic 2. So I'm going to put this plastic 2 on the shaderball. So I'm going to have that. So now, first off, I need to make sure I'm using Redshift renderer. And for the Redshift, for my output, I just want to start with 900 by 900. It's going to be square meters, square aspect ratio. So for the GI, I'm just going to use a primary GI of brute force. That's just the only thing I've done here, nothing more. So let me just quickly see what I have. So if I fire up this render, I should have this coming up for me. So it's taking long because it's the first time. So I have this render. So don't forget, the first thing we want to do in this tutorial is how to create a proper plastic material. So we are going to be looking at some secondary things, adding scratches to it and also curvature to where we have creases and edges around here. So that's what we want to look at. So we're going to focus on this and just add a little bit of stuff to this guy here. So I'm going to go back to Cinema 4D. I'm just going to let's just wait for this. All right, so we're here. I'm going to let me just reduce this a little bit. So let's say 50%. So let's just try 75. So everything is not too much. We can just see everything here. So let's open up this texture. And the first thing I'm going to do is to go over to the diffuse. So that will help me change the color of the plastic. So let's say I'm going to go with my bluish default color for my brand. So I'm going to see that come up. So this is going to be the color for that brand. So the other thing I'm going to do for this is coming to the reflection. So for the reflection, under the reflection section, I want to scroll down to the IOR, index of refraction. For plastic, it's usually 1.427 thereabouts, or 47. So it's very close to 1.5, but you could just search online and look for the index of refraction for plastic. So we have different plastic material, but I choose to take this one. And then the other thing I'm going to also look at is the roughness. So right now the roughness, I just see this very glossy object. So we want to introduce a bit of roughness to it. So I'm going to add reflection roughness to this. So just bring this up a little bit so you start to see this object becoming this rough, and we don't want that. So we're just going to come to maybe 0.07 ish, something like that. So we're going to have a little bit of that to it, but it's still sharp. You can still see the reflection. But we're going to break this reflection down by introducing bump to this. So I just want to quickly do everything that I need to do under the diffuse and the reflection. So once we're done with that, we need to start adding the bump to it. But before I add the bump, let's just quickly do this sharp stuff. You know, when you have when you have a concrete, when you have an object, you should show that you've used this over a period of time. So there should be a little bit of irregularity to the color, wearing out of color and all that. So that's what we're going to use to do that. So I'm going to introduce curvature. So I'm going to just look for curvature here. So what I'm going to do to the curvature is to just add it to this surface first so that I can see a preview of what I'm going to be having. So this is what the curvature is going to give me. So if we go over to the curvature section, you can start changing some of these values. So if you go to the general, you can change the type of curvature you want. So maybe we want concave. So concave will come to anywhere you have indentations, sort of. So that's where you have your effect of curvature. So if you change it to convex, comes to this edge. So I think I want to have for convex. You also have options, other options. So these ones will kind of reduce the effects. So if I go to the convex AL, it reduces the effects a little bit, and you might not really see that because of the recording, and also convex here. So, but I'll stick with convex. And another thing you also want to look at is the radius. The radius is the spread, the rate of spread. So at radius 5, this is what you get to have. So if I change this radius sort of to a larger value, you are going to see that the white part of this is going to be will increase in size thereabout. So that's what we are going to have. So let me so if we bring this to 1, you notice what, so it blurs this off and also increases this. So if you bring it to 2, it starts increasing and blurs away. So you can start to see the effect of the curvature here. So I think I'm going to go with 0.6. And so we have this. I think 0.6 might be too much. Let's try 0.45. So we want to have that. For that, so if you go to the remap section, you can also further change this. So if I increase the bias, so what the bias will do is to give preference over to either the black part or the white part. So the white part is where you're having your curvature. So increasing this bias will give preference to the curvature. So you have more of the curvature value until once you get to white one, everything turns this. You get so, and if you come below this, you start shrinking down until you don't see anything. All right, so that is that for the curvature. So I think I will go with I want to reduce the effect a little bit. So let's try 0.4. So this is fine. And also for the gain, increasing the gain, you could just see what it shrinks these things down. So you can start to see, and if you reduce that also, it also gives similar. So I'm going to go with this. And for the output range, so what do you want? So for the output, I want to leave the minimum as this, and for the maximum, just bring it down a little bit, tone this thing down. So if you bring it just bring it down, you notice the effect of that curvature. So that's what this is. So we don't want the curvature to be point white, I don't want it to be too white like this. I want it to still see through a little bit of the color we're having there. So I'll try 0.7 and it just fades a little bit down. So that's for the curvature. Then the other thing I'm going to do is to add, I will not want to fuse this curvature here, but let me just quickly do that here. So you see what I'm trying to say. So if I copy this material by holding down Control and dragging this here. So for this, I want to make this the weathered out one. So I'm going to increase this, just bring this color, wash it off a little bit so you have these things. Then the other thing I'm going to do is I don't want this to be reflective, because once you use it, you start to lose its reflectivity and all that. So I'm going to bring the reflection down so it's not that reflective, and also bring the bump up. So I think I'm going to change this color, bring it close to this. All right, so I think I like that. So let's bring the reflection weights down. And for the diffuse roughness, I'm going to bring this up so it darkens this diffusion. So now we are left with this which is the main object, and also this, which is the other part of it, which is scratched off. So how can we fuse this together? We're going to be making use of the material blender. So we're going to type blender. So we have material blender here. So this is going to be the base. So I'm going to right click here, go to rename, and call this base. And this is the other one. So I'm going to make this base, plug it in and make it the base color. So if I bring this back over to this, that base color pops up, and that's what we have. Then the other thing I'm going to do is to now plug in this as the layer 1. So click here, go to layer 1 color. So I'm going to bring the layer 1 color up. We don't see anything yet because it's looking for something to blend them together. So that is why we have this curvature. So for the curvature, anywhere we have white, it's going to bring this other one out. Anywhere we have black, the base is going to stay there. So that's what that is. So if we bring this over to this blend, this is what you're going to have. So you might not see this until, let me just change this color. So you see, let me change the color of this other, so you see through what we're going to see. Then we change this material. All right, so if I change this color to, so first off, let me copy this because I need that. So let me change this to something very different. So you're going to see, so you can start seeing the red curvature here. So you can always go back to this and go to the radius and bring the radius up. So let's say 6. And then let's try 8. Start fading off. Then you can also come back to the remap and bring this up a little bit. So you start to see the red poke through here. So I think I still can go away with 1.5. I want this to just think that is, we're not getting the effect I want. So I think I'll go with 0.55. So I see more of that red. All right, so that is what I wanted to show you guys. You see this, it's too regular. I don't really want that. I want to have some of them scratch off and some still have the white, the bluish part in it. So that is what so let's just leave this color for now. So for me to do that, I'm going to introduce noise, add noise texture today. So I have some noise here that I'm going to bring over here for scratches and all that. So I think I would work with let's just say this. So I'm going to drag this over here into this material section, and that's loaded. So if I bring this noise, I need to also map it to this. So if I map it into this, for me to see what the noise is giving me, and that will help me to know how to either scale this noise up or down. So let's just wait for this to load up. So it's trying to process the texture. So you can start to see the effects of this noise. So I really do not like this mapping. So I'm going to do two things here. The first thing I'm going to do is to reduce the scale of this noise. So I'm going to use scalar user data. So I'm going to use scalar user data and plug it into the scale. So I'm going to have this. So the reason is because the scale is 0, so we don't have anything. So as we start increasing this, we start to have that. So if I make this 1, it's going to be 1% of the 100% of what we had before. So we need to start reducing this by increasing. So if I increase this to 2, it's going to reduce the, so that's the inverse of this. Increasing the value will reduce the scale. So if we make this 10, for instance, see what we get to have. So let's try to use 7, and I think we are good here. We have some noise here. So this is the first thing we're going to do. like I said, the other thing I'm going to do is to, so let me right click here and rename this to noise. So we have, so the next thing I'm going to do is to change the mapping here. So right now the mapping is, so I'm going to change this by coming to this search bar and typing triplanar and drop a triplanar and put this in the texture X. Then drag this over to this section and let's see what it gives us. So it scales this thing even further down, and so we can always go back here and bring this. So if we try 5, so we have this. So I think we like this. So once we have this, what we need to do is now multiply this over with the curvature map for us to have a feel of what we're going to have. All right, so that is what we are going to do next. So sorry about my system. I've been working on it all week, so it's really bogging the system down. It's a low-end system, so let's just bring this. So I'm going to search multiply. So what the kind of multiplier I need is not the scalar, I need the vector. The reason why I need the vector is because this is a three-dimensional object, so I want to go to the z-axis also. So the vector multiply is what I need. So I'll bring this here, then bring the curvature to the input 1 and bring this to the input 2, and then plug this in over to this surface, and let's see what we get to have. So you can start see some, so let me bring this up. So you can already start seeing this. So let me try 200%. So you can start seeing these tears and all that. So this is what I was looking for, which is not this. So if I bring this up here, you notice this is so smooth, and we don't want that. We want to break this perfect curvature by introducing noise to it and then putting this. So this gives us the effect we are looking for. So if we now take this guy and so don't mind this. So if we bring this guy up, scalar is meant to be here. So, and the curvature is at the top. So we get rid of the curvature and bring this over to this blender. So the blend should be at the top, and bring this over here. You're going to start seeing this is the effects I said I wanted. So this is how to do this curvature and introduce that to that. So if we bring this back to 100 and change the color of this second one, so I'll just paste the color. So we start to see this. So we just very subtle change, which goes a long way. So that's when you are working, always try not to go overboard with this. Try to be as subtle as possible, and that's what brings the realism in whatever you're trying to do here. So that's for that. So the next thing is to break up this reflection by adding bump to this. So we're also going to use another noise. So I don't know, let's try this noise. So we're going to bring this noise. I think I want to use the one that has fingerprints, just to show that it has been touched. So I'll bring this smudge, and if it doesn't work fine, you can always go back and put this. So we are going to also search bump and bring the bump map down here. So like I learned from Mographplus, I've come to add that to my workflow. I always try to set this and see how it's going to look like before I start putting it in the texture. So I'll drag this over to this bump and put it in input. So I'm going to see the way it looks. Then that will help us to change. So this is going to be height map. Okay, so we think we would have to scale this up. So let's add that bump to the base, because that's what we want to add it to the base. So add it to base, overall input. So that should cut this off, so you can start seeing this. And then, so we need to quickly work on this. This is too much, so we'll take this scale down for the bump. Go to the general, take the scale down to 0. Let's try 0.2, and let's see what we have. So I think it's still too much. 0.2 is too much. You can see here. So let's try 0.03. Just a little bit. We don't need too much of it. And once we see, then that will help us with what we have. Okay, so I think I'm still seeing the bump. So I think I will take this up first. So don't forget 0.03. I'll take this to 1. And let's work with the scale of this bump. The bump is too large, so we will have to go again and use scalar data, user data. So we're going to bring this over here, scale, everything turns because we have 0. So we'll start with 1. 1 is the default. So if we reduce this 3 times this size, so we should have the bump go down, way down. So we can start seeing, so I think we can still go to 4. And 4 should do, you can start introducing the thumbprints and all that. So I think that is fine. And this, I think I have missed something up. What I'm adding here, I think it's best to add it to the roughness. Yeah, the roughness. So I think I'm changing this from the bump to the roughness channel. So we'll take this off and delete that. So everything is this. So we want to break this by adding to the roughness. So we'll come here. I'm so sorry, my bad. So we'll go to the reflection and go to reflection roughness, and that should break up this roughness. And then this is too much, so we need to also still control how the roughness goes. So we are going to introduce ramp node and put the ramp node after the texture. So bring this over here to this input section, input, and bring the input to the roughness. So now we are back to the default. So we change this source to alt. So we can now use this gradient map to change how this goes. So anywhere you have white, it's going to be very rough. So we need to reduce the roughness. So this is too much. We can just bring this a little bit down, so we can start seeing a little bit of glossiness to it. So come here, bring this down, and this white, bring it up a little bit. So that will help us with this. So that's just to break this down, just to break it off. So you see some of this thing being rough and all that. So you have that. So for us to do the bump, I think we're going to use another, not this one. This is best for roughness. So we're going to use scratch. So this is what we're going to use all these for. So let's just use this for. And by the way, I got this material online and some of them from Mographplus. So I'm a fan of Mographplus. So that's that. So I'm going to bring this over here and plug this into the bump input. So let's see what this gives us. Okay, so don't forget this is 100% of that. So let's see what it gives us by just waiting for this to come up. So I think you have to refresh this. So all right, so it's coming up. So you can start to see the bump. So this is where this comes. So we can just scale this down to have a good bump. So I think I'll copy this and put this into the scale, and let's see what we have. Okay, so it's rendering up, so just wait for that. So this is what takes most of my time, waiting for the render to finish up. So I'm almost done with this, just some tweaks, and I'm going to call this end. All right, so you see what it gives us. So we have that. So I think we can still go down. So let's try 5. And that will reduce this. And the other thing I'm going to do is come to the bump. So the bump is too much. So what we'll do is just get the bump down. So I'll try 0.04 and just a little bit of bump to it. Okay. So that's how to, so I'm just going to do a final render for this and bring it up for you guys. So just hold on for me while I do a final render. Okay, so before then, I forgot, I need to also add, because the plastic, so there is a little bit of subsurface to it, so I'm so sorry about that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this subsurface over to this object and then finish up. So if I come to the refraction transmission, so I'm going to copy this guy here and paste it over here. Then I'm just going to add a little bit of this to that. Then I'm going to copy this over to the transmission and also to the scatter coefficient. So bring this here, just reduce the diffusion a little bit, and just copy this here. So you won't really see anything yet until we start to introduce these values here. So this works with light, because when light hits, there is a little bit of scattering in this object. So I'm just going to bring this close to green and drag this also to the transmitter. So if I come to the scatter scale, so I'll try 0.02, and you should start to see a little bit of change. So the thing with this, the value is very sensitive, so you have a little bit of scattering to this object, and then let's just add that. So if we bring this up, this turns it to glass object, so we don't want that. So changing this is just to show you the subsurface. So this color we have inside is what is showing, poking through here. So that's what I just wanted to show you. So if we bring this a little bit here, the main color shows through and still have a little bit of that subsurface color going through the object. So that's just to show that. So I'm going to bring this weight to 0.1. I think 0.05 should do. And that is for that. So just quickly thought I should quickly explain that it's very important. It's plastic object. There should be a little bit of subsurface to that plastic object. So I'm going to go back and do a final render, then get back to you and show you the final render to this. All right, so you see what I have. And just to quickly clarify, I went to change some of this. I went to change the bump from 0.4 to 0.2, because the first one I did was kind of too intense, so I changed this. Even at that, you notice this is still much. You can see the bump is still too much. So maybe I would do another render, but I'm just going to stop this just to show you that even with 0.02 height value for the bump, I'm still having too much bump. So when you're doing your texturing and all that, you should always consider this value. They're very, very sensitive. So you would want to use very small value. You don't need to let this be too intense like this. This is too much for me. So that is how to do this. So if you want to, like, for instance, change the color, all you just need to do is come to the texture and just change the color, and that changes. So for here, I could decide, say, okay, for the base, I want to change this to 0, maybe 82, 83, thereabouts, and that changes the color of this object here. And also, don't forget, you also do the same thing for the layer 1. So this comes here. So this should do, and you should have. So that's how you can just change different colors and different texture, all that. So I think I'm going to just bring this down 0.02, 0.005, and that's what I'm going to use for that. So if you feel this was helpful, please do give me a like and a thumbs up, because it helps me in YouTube algorithm. And also, if you're new to my channel, I do tutorials like this every time. And like I said, this is a new series of texturing I'm going to be doing, and starting with Redshift. And this is the first episode of the Redshift textures, where I talk about everything extensively. I take my time to talk about everything and show. So once again, I want to say, do have a wonderful day. God bless you.